Have you ever noticed how some old trucks still have a presence that no modern machine can match? It doesn't matter how many sensors, cameras, or digital screens today's rigs come with, there are some things technology just can't replace. Now picture this, the deep rumble of a V8 echoing across a lonely American highway at night. The smell of grease and diesel in the air. That long hood stretching out in front of you like an extension of your soul. Ever wonder why some old school trucks are still treated like legends, even after all these years? Today, we're hitting the road on a time-traveling journey across the highways of the United States, rediscovering 10 giants of the road that left their tire marks on history and still put many modern machines to shame. Whether it's their raw power, timeless design, or the soul that only real steel can carry, these trucks remind us why driving used to mean something. So buckle up, because by the end of this ride, you'll meet the truck so legendary that fans are willing to spend a fortune just to park one in their garage. Let's roll. Ford LTL 9000. Launched in the late 1970s, the Ford LTL 9000 was Ford's bold move into the heavy-duty truck game, and it didn't take long for it to earn a new title, King of the Road. With its massive hood, clean lines, and towering stance, the LTL 9000 wasn't just another rig. It was a declaration of dominance. One glance and you knew this machine meant business. Under that long hood lived absolute monsters, Caterpillar 15-liter and Cummins Big Cam inline-6 engines, pumping out over 500 horsepower and enough torque to pull mountains. Yet, despite all that brute strength, it rode smoother than most thanks to its air ride suspension. Inside, the extended sleeper cab felt more like a rolling apartment than a truck, a bed, storage, thick insulation, and comfort miles ahead of its time. It was a driver's dream, whether crossing states or hauling coast to coast. And haul it did: grain, fuel, containers, farm equipment, oversized industrial loads. Wherever raw strength was needed, the LTL 9000 answered the call. So why hasn't any modern truck truly surpassed it? Because the LTL 9000 struck the perfect balance of brute strength, mechanical simplicity, and driver comfort. Modern rigs might be lighter, more aerodynamic, and packed with tech, but they're also fragile, over-electronic, and painfully expensive to maintain. The LTL 9000? You could fix it on the shoulder of a highway and keep rolling. Some of these beasts have logged over 1 million miles on their original engines and transmissions, proof that this wasn't just smart engineering, it was Ford toughness at its peak. But what truly made it legendary was presence. Modern trucks start to look alike, but the LTL? You could spot it from a mile away. It had authority, attitude, and soul. It was built for the drivers who lived on the road, the ones who treated their rig not as a tool, but as a partner. And that's why, even decades later, nothing has dethroned the Ford LTL 9000. Because it wasn't just a machine. It was a legend. The Mack B61. Launched in 1953, the Mack B61 wasn't just another truck, it was a declaration of strength. Anyone who saw one working knew this machine didn't quit. It was built to pull, to climb, and to keep going long after others broke down. Under the hood, the B61 was usually powered by Mack inline-6 engines, around 11 liters of raw diesel muscle, pushing out roughly 250 horsepower and the kind of torque that made trailers feel weightless. Paired with a double-clutch manual gearbox, it wasn't a truck for beginners. It demanded skill, but in return, it gave back unmatched performance. The leaf spring suspension was rock solid, and the reinforced chassis and heavy-duty rear axles made this thing feel more like a tank than a truck. It wasn't just built to haul, it was built to survive. Visually, the B61 was unmistakable. That rounded hood, tall grille, prominent headlights, and of course, the chrome bulldog perched proudly on the hood. It wasn't just a logo, it was a warning. A symbol of power that still defines Mack trucks today. The B61 did it all. Cement hauling, container transport, fuel delivery, logging, even military service. If there was a load to move, the B61 was the one you called. And here's the incredible part: many of these rigs ran hundreds of thousands of miles on their original engines and frames. No rebuilds. No replacements. Just consistent, relentless performance year after year. Sure, modern trucks are more comfortable, more aerodynamic, more connected. But very few can match the mechanical longevity of the B61. Some are still working after more than 60 years on the road, a feat no digital dashboard or computer-controlled engine can replicate. That's not nostalgia. That's engineering done right. The Mack B61 didn't just earn respect from drivers, it earned respect from the road itself. It had presence, grit, and a reputation that no technology could imitate. It was the truck that taught the others how it's done. And even now, decades later, when one of these old bulldogs rumbles to life, people still stop and stare because they know they're looking at a true king of the highway. But speaking of kings, it's time. The next truck isn't just a legend, it is the throne. The number one spot belongs to the machine that redefined power, endurance, and American trucking forever. Peterbilt 359. To many drivers and enthusiasts, the Peterbilt 359 isn't just another classic, it's the most beautiful truck ever built. And that's not hype, that's legacy. Launched in 1967, the 359 didn't just mark a new chapter in American trucking, it defined an entire era. It was the first Peterbilt to feature an aluminum chassis, lighter, stronger, and capable of hauling more than ever before. But what truly made it unforgettable was the look. That long, squared-off hood, the chrome grille, vertical exhaust stacks, and those twin round headlights up front. The 359 wasn't built just to work, it was built to be remembered. When it came to performance, this rig didn't play games. Most were powered by Caterpillar or Cummins inline-6 engines, around 15 liters of displacement, pumping out 450 horsepower and torque strong enough to pull mountains. Paired with 18-speed manual transmissions, the 359 gave drivers complete command over every mile. It wasn't just about getting there, it was about how you got there. Step inside, and the story gets even better. The interior was elegant yet rugged, wood paneling, analog gauges, plush seating, and excellent sound insulation. It was comfort built for the long haul, the kind that made coast-to-coast runs feel like home. Through the 1970s and 80s, the Peterbilt 359 became a rolling symbol of American freedom. It showed up in movies, commercials, even country songs, not because someone paid for placement, but because the 359 was trucking culture. It represented grit, pride, and craftsmanship on wheels. So why hasn't any modern truck truly surpassed it? Simple: no machine since has captured that same balance of style, performance, simplicity, and soul. Today's rigs may be more efficient, more comfortable, more connected, but they've lost that raw, mechanical bond between driver and machine. With the 359, you didn't just operate a vehicle. You became part of it. You felt every shift, every hill, every heartbeat of that diesel under your feet. It demanded focus and skill, but in return, it gave you pride. You didn't just drive a 359, you wore it like a badge of honor. Even now, decades later, enthusiasts still pour tens of thousands of dollars into restoring these legends, bringing them back to pristine condition. Because when a truck still inspires that kind of passion half a century later, it's more than a machine. It's history that still moves. And speaking of toughness, get ready. The next beast isn't about beauty, it's about brute strength. The legendary Mack B61, the very definition of American durability, is up next. Kenworth 900. When it comes to style, soul, and respect on the open road, the Kenworth W900 doesn't just enter the conversation, it owns it, engine already roaring. First introduced in 1961, this rig didn't take long to become a legend. It wasn't just another truck, it was a symbol of pride, freedom, and pure American trucking spirit. With that long hood, towering vertical stacks, and bold, aggressive stance, the W900 wasn't designed to blend in. It was built to be noticed, to turn heads at truck stops and command silence when it rolled by. Under that massive hood lived raw power Caterpillar, Cummins, or Detroit diesel engines, often around 15 liters, inline 6, pumping out well over 500 horsepower and torque that could move mountains or at least hold them steady. Heavy-duty air suspension gave it a surprisingly smooth ride for such a brute, while the 18-speed manual transmission turned every shift into an experience mechanical, deliberate, and deeply satisfying. A bond between driver and machine you could feel through your fingertips. Step inside, and the W900's cab was pure class for its time. Wood grain finishes, analog gauges, sleeper bed, and storage. It was more than a workspace, it was a second home. The soundproofing made those cross-country hauls bearable, even peaceful. From dry freight to oversized loads, the W900 proved its worth everywhere. And even today, decades later, it remains the standard that every modern truck tries to live up to. Sure, the new ones come packed with tech lane assist, automatic braking, digital dashboards, but they can't replicate what made the original truly special, soul. The classic W900 wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about mastering the road. It demanded focus, respect, and skill, and it gave back loyalty, power, and a sense of pride that no modern system could ever download. Because when you drove a 900, you didn't just own the road. You belonged to it. And if this is the king of highway style, the next truck. Let's just say it's not just a machine, it's a cultural icon that still fuels the dreams of truckers around the world. Autocar DC100. The Autocar DC100 doesn't ask for a place on this list, it owns it. First built in the 1950s by the Autocar Company in the United States, it quickly earned a reputation as the truck that simply refused to die. It wasn't the prettiest rig on the highway, some called it ugly, others called it intimidating, but one thing everyone agreed on, it was reliable. Unbreakably, undeniably reliable. The DC100 was born to go the distance. Its steel frame was thick enough to survive punishment that would twist modern trucks in half. Every weld was overbuilt, every component designed with one goal: endurance. Under the hood, most came fitted with Cummins or Detroit diesel inline 6 engines up to 14 liters, putting out 300 to 400 horsepower and enough torque to drag mountains if it had to. Paired with manual transmissions, 10 gears or more, heavy-duty leaf springs, and locking rear differentials, this was no-nonsense trucking at its finest. No comfort features. No computers. Just a raw mechanical bond between driver and machine. When you climbed into the cab, you didn't push buttons, you commanded it. The look was pure grit, a tall squared-off hood, steel grille, inset headlights, and a front bumper that looked like a battering ram. You didn't just see this truck coming, you felt it rumbling through the ground. On highways, in logging sites, at steel plants, or chemical halls, the DC100 became a symbol of unstoppable force. It wasn't luxurious, but it delivered something far more valuable: total trust. Today's rigs might have advanced electronics and digital dashboards, but they've also lost that sense of certainty. When a sensor fails, the whole system shuts down. With the DC100, if something broke, you didn't need a laptop, you needed a wrench, a hammer, and a pair of strong hands. 90% of problems could be fixed right there on the roadside. And that's why, even decades later, mechanics, collectors, and drivers still speak of the DC100 with respect. It was simple, powerful, and brutally dependable, a relic from an age when trucks were built to last, not to be replaced every few years. The Autocar DC100 may not have been the prettiest, but it had something no modern truck can fake: character. And if you think this beast was impressive, just wait till you meet the next one, a crowd favorite that still has fans roaring around the world. Brockway 361. Built from the 1950s through the 1970s, it remains one of the most overlooked legends in American trucking. Handcrafted by the Brockway Motor Company in Cortland, New York, this wasn't just a truck, it was a rolling work of art. Brockways weren't mass-produced. Each one was built to order, tailored to the buyer's exact needs, and designed to last a lifetime. Whether you were hauling logs through the backwoods or machinery across state lines, the 361 was the kind of truck that didn't just get the job done, it made you proud to drive it. Under the hood, most came with Cummins inline-6 engines up to 13 liters, delivering over 300 horsepower and mountains of torque. That meant serious pulling power across rough terrain. Paired with heavy-duty leaf springs and a reinforced steel chassis, the 361 didn't flinch at potholes, mud, or steep grades. The manual gearbox demanded raw, mechanical precision that connected the driver directly to the road. Styling-wise, the Brockway 361 had unmistakable presence. A squared-off hood, thick barred grille, and twin headlights gave it a bold, no-nonsense face. No excessive chrome. No gimmicks. Just pure function wrapped in timeless style. Inside, the cab was simple but full of character with trim, analog gauges, and that steady mechanical hum that let you know everything was running right. These trucks were built for the toughest jobs: logging, heavy equipment hauling, municipal duty, and they did it all with grace and grit. What truly made the Brockway special wasn't just its performance, but its craftsmanship and endurance. It wasn't uncommon for a 361 to run 1,000,000 miles without major repairs. Try saying that about most trucks today. Modern rigs may have more technology, but they also have more failure points. Plastic parts, fragile sensors, endless diagnostics. They've lost the rugged soul that trucks like the Brockway embodied. This machine was all steel, all strength, and somehow, the more you drove it, the better it felt. Old school drivers still say, if I had to trust my life to one truck, I'd pick a Brockway. Because even after all these decades, no computer, no software, and no touchscreen can replace what this classic had in abundant soul. And if you've made it this far, it's because you share that same passion for timeless machines that defined an era. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because if you thought the Brockway 361 was rare, the next truck on this list is a true icon of the old-school heavy-duty world. Diamond Rio. Built between the 1950s and 1970s, it remains one of the most underrated American trucks ever made. Born from the merger of the Rio Motor Car Company and Diamond T, this machine wasn't just built tough, it was built unbreakable. Drivers called it the tank of the highway, and they weren't exaggerating. This truck could take a beating, haul monstrous loads, and keep going year after year without complaint. It didn't need luxury, it didn't need pampering, just fuel, grease, and a driver with guts. Even with minimal maintenance, the Diamond Rio kept rolling, mile after mile, like it had something to prove. Under the hood, it often carried a Cummins inline-6 up to 14 liters of pure muscle, producing over 350 horsepower and torque strong enough to laugh at mountain grades. Paired with a manual transmission and a rugged leaf spring suspension, it was simple to repair, easy to maintain, and brutally effective. You didn't need a laptop to diagnose it, just a wrench and some backbone. And visually, it was unmistakable. The squared-off front, the crane-style grille, reinforced bumper, and wide-set headlights gave it a bold, almost military look. Even when parked, the Diamond Rio looked like it was ready to go to war. And when that engine came to life, the low, deep growl could be heard for blocks. From hauling grain and timber to pulling cement mixers and heavy equipment, this truck did it all. Whatever job you threw at it, it delivered day in, day out. And here's the truth, few modern rigs can match its raw endurance. Today's trucks might be faster, lighter, more comfortable, but they're also more fragile. When a sensor fails, you're stranded. With the Diamond Rio, you pop the hood, listen, tighten a few bolts, and get back on the road. That's why old school drivers still say, the new ones may look nice, but they'll never outlast a Diamond Rio. And they're right. Because not everything new is better. Some things were built once and built right. Stick around. The next truck on this list carries history, rarity, and more personality than most fleets combined. Western Star 4900. The Western Star 4900, introduced in the 1970s, was built for a different breed of driver. If the white Freightliner was made for the masses, the Western Star was made for the few who wanted power, pride, and presence in one unstoppable machine. Born in the U.S., under the White Motor Company, the 4900 wasn't a truck you just bought off a dealer lot. It was one you ordered, built to your specs, built for your job, and built to last. From logging in the Pacific Northwest to hauling freight across mountain passes, this truck was made for the toughest roads and the toughest drivers. Under the hood, it packed a Detroit diesel V8 14 liters of raw muscle, delivering over 400 horsepower and torque that didn't ask permission, it just pulled. Backed by a manual transmission with up to 18 gears, it gave the driver total control, while the reinforced suspension and dual rear axles made sure it could handle punishing loads day after day. This wasn't a lightweight highway cruiser, it was a rolling fortress of steel and grit. And just look at it. The long hood, squared-off cab, polished chrome, and towering exhaust stacks, every inch of it designed to command respect. Inside, it was pure old-school luxury. Wood grain finishes, deep seats, and a level of soundproofing that was decades ahead of its time. It didn't just drive, it felt like a statement. Here's the thing, no modern truck can recreate that feeling. Today's rigs are efficient, automated, and quiet, but they've lost the soul. The 4900 demanded focus, skill, and patience, and in return, it gave you power, control, and pride. Even after 50 years, you'll still see these legends working the highways or shining at truck shows, many with their original engines still roaring strong. Some call it nostalgia. But when a truck can still outwork modern machines after half a century, that's not nostalgia. That's proof of greatness. And if you think the Western Star 4900 was untouchable, wait until you see the one they called the Road Warrior, a truck so fierce it turned survival into an art form. International Harvester Loader. Introduced in 1962, the International Harvester Loadstar was built with one mission: to be the ultimate all-purpose workhorse. Whether it was hauling grain on a farm, delivering goods through busy city streets, or fighting fires in small-town America, the Loadstar did it all, and it did it without ever complaining. Built by the legendary International Harvester in the U.S., this truck became a symbol of hard work and reliability. What made it such a hit? One word: versatility. The Loadstar could transform into just about anything: a delivery rig, a dump truck, a flatbed, a fire engine, even a school bus. It was like the Swiss Army knife of trucks: simple, strong, and always ready for the next job. Under the hood, you had options. Gasoline or diesel, depending on what you needed. One of the most popular setups was the 345 cubic inch V8, about 5.6 liters, delivering roughly 180 horsepower and enough torque to climb steep hills fully loaded. Rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, it didn't matter, the Loadstar was built to take punishment. Its leaf spring suspension could handle rough roads, potholes, and gravel tracks without missing a beat. And visually, it had that perfect mix of toughness and charm, the kind of design that turned heads without trying. Round headlights, a bold chrome grille, and that unmistakable stance that said, "I'm here to work." Inside, it was practical and honest: wide cab, sturdy seats, and a dashboard designed by people who actually drove trucks, not computer designers. Even today, you'll still spot Loadstars working the backroads and farms of America, hauling hay, towing trailers, or just refusing to die. Why? Because they're nearly indestructible. No sensors, no electronic systems, no dealer-only diagnostics, just good old-fashioned mechanics. If something broke, you didn't need a laptop, you just needed a wrench, some patience, and a patch of shade. Modern trucks might be more efficient, but none capture that same do-it-all spirit quite like the Loadstar. It wasn't just a truck, it was a partner, a tool, a legend. And trust me, if you think the Loadstar had presence, wait until you see the next machine. The next one didn't just haul cargo, it commanded attention everywhere it went. White Freightliner. Born in the 1950s, the White Freightliner was the result of a powerhouse partnership between Freightliner Trucks and the White Motor Company, two titans of American manufacturing. This was a time when trucks weren't about comfort or fancy electronics. They were built for endurance, for muscle, and for men who lived by the road. No touchscreens, no sensors, no software glitches, just you, the truck, and miles of open highway. Its cab-over-engine design, or flat nose, as drivers called it, made it instantly recognizable. With the cab sitting right above the engine, the Freightliner was shorter, more agile, and perfect for navigating tight city streets or crowded loading docks. Under that steel skin growled a Detroit diesel inline-six, a 12-liter workhorse pumping out around 230 horsepower and enough torque to drag full loads up steep grades without breaking a sweat. The sound? Pure mechanical thunder. No filters, no electronics, just raw, old-school diesel power. It rolled on heavy-duty leaf springs and a dual rear axle that spread the weight evenly, making it one of the toughest rigs of its time. And inside, it was all business. No luxury seats or digital gauges, just bare metal, the smell of grease, and the hum of the engine beneath your feet. For the men who drove them, that scent of diesel and dust was the smell of freedom. These rigs ruled America's highways, hauling from coast to coast without rest, and even today, many still run strong, their original drivetrains untouched after 6 decades. That's not nostalgia, that's craftsmanship. A reminder of when trucks were built to last, not to be replaced. Sure, modern rigs have comfort and computers. But when a sensor fails, the truck stops. In a white Freightliner, all you needed was a wrench, a few tools, and some good old-fashioned grit. That's why even after 60 years, old-school truckers still swear by the Freightliner. It might not talk to satellites, but it speaks straight to the heart. And trust me, if you think this machine was tough, just wait until you see what's coming next. So, after this journey down the highway of history, it's easy to see why these classic trucks still reign supreme. They weren't just machines, they were battle-tested tools, rolling homes, and most of all, lifelong partners. Sure, technology today brings more comfort, efficiency, and convenience. But there's one thing these old-school rigs still have that modern trucks can't: by legacy and soul. Now it's your turn. Tell us down in the comments, which one of these legends stole your heart? Which truck brings back memories of your childhood, your career, or your family? Let's share some stories, driver to driver. And hey, if you love this kind of content, hit that like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because every week, we're bringing you more incredible machines that conquered the road, the snow, the desert, and beyond. Until next time, keep those engines roaring, and keep the legend alive.